Hello, my name's Martin. I'm doing a few videos to just try and demonstrate a few of the ways I'm going to teach people how to play the guitar, and it's going to be a slightly different, hopefully more kind of practical based way of doing it rather than just learning your scales. You know, or third position, pentatonic, all that kind of stuff. But I've learnt myself by just by playing songs and deriving the theory from that. So I think that's the best way of doing it. So I'm going to play a piece, and then think about how you feel about the piece. Think about when you're listening to it play. Do you think it's good? Do you think it's, you know, too complicated or anything like that? And then as we go through this half-hour video, hopefully by the end you'll have some understanding. If you didn't to start with, if you knew exactly what I was playing to start with, you know, hunky-dory, you don't actually need to be taught the guitar. Or not by me anyway. But if you don't really know what I'm doing, when you first listen to this piece, I'll play it a couple of times. Hopefully by the end we'll have come to some point where at least you have some understanding of what's going on in the music, and also be able to play it to a certain next to the limit of your abilities, if you know what I mean. If that's just root chords, you know, that's fine. That's the whole point really. Or if it's just one root chord, we're going to go through the chord of A, and even if you've just come up with a new little rhythm to play the A chord in, hopefully that's something that's going to be useful and, you know, a successful learning experience. So anyway, I'm going to play this tune. It's based on a tune by Greg Koch, who's a brilliant guitarist. He does lots of workshops and that kind of thing, and demos and stuff. So he's a total guitar demon. So I can't claim to be like him, but at least I've learnt this piece in one of the pieces he's played in one of his demos, and I thought it would be interesting to try and sort through what's actually going on underneath the hood. So we'll try and play it a couple of times, and then we'll go through what's going on. All right. With me so far? We'll do it again. And I'm going to shout out some chord names. A. Come up to C sharp minor, C sharp minor, D. This is F. B flat, sorry. F. B minor, E. So these are obviously more complex chords than just those root chords, but if you start off and you already know is A and E and D and stuff like that, you know, play along to it. So we'll start again. This is A. Turn at C sharp minor, D, E flat, F, B minor, that's E, E6, something like that. So there, hopefully. So let's demonstrate. So I was going A, C sharp minors, something like that, D, B flat, F, C, B. I cocked that up, didn't I? Scratch that bit out. A, C sharp minor, then D, B flat, F, and then B minor, E. So that's the root chords. So you could even sort of, if you fancy, whistling the melody over it. Do, 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 do. Do, 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 do. are some nice little changes in there as well. It's a little bit more complicated than the normal sort of 3 chords, A, D, E, and back to A. I think that's useful because it's easier to be clever with your chord progressions than it is to try and play a clever chord, if you know what I mean. So we'll go back to basics. We'll start with the different chords. Now, I'm assuming everyone can learn at home A, D, E. Okay, that's the standard chords that we're going to be using in this piece, and there's 2 others, or 2 or 3 others, which are more complicated. But A, you need to be able to know A, D, E, and A. You can learn that at home. You don't need to be a teacher to teach you how to do that. The other extra chords that we've got in here, C sharp minor. So if you once you've got your root chords, bar chords are the next thing, which is basically the same thing but moved up and down and using your finger instead of the nut here to provide the stop for the back. So you usually use if you've got E, you put the bar on there, it's F. So that takes a bit more hand strength. It took me ages and ages, but when I got it was like a eureka moment. And then you never lose it, of course. Then again, I was using an acoustic with like a 2-inch action, so it's ironic that you start off by playing the most difficult guitars that you learn on 50p car boot sale specials. Anyway, I digress. Bar chords. So you notice there's 3 what you might call bar chord type chords in there. So this is a C sharp minor. This is the same as an A minor, but moved up here. I was playing the D as a bar chord. This is the same as A down here, except moved up to the 5th. But you can also play it here, like this. Then it goes to B flat. Now B flat, there's no way around it. I don't think there's any easy way of playing it without doing a bar. You could do it like this. You'll need some chord sheets. Just look up these chords. That's B flat barred. You don't have to go all the way there, but you'll lose the bass note, unfortunately. And F. That's the full bar. The cheat sway is skip the bottom 2 strings. And then it goes to so I had a C sharp minor before, then a B minor, and then E, or A6. Now, so that goes. So if you're thinking, hopefully you're thinking, I sort of know what he's on about, okay? Especially the A's and the D's and the E's. Right? And it makes sense that if you want to play an E but 3 steps up, you have to put your finger over there, otherwise it sounds like this. Good, so you need to do it like this. So that's the principle of bar chord. You take a chord that you already know, and then you put your finger behind it, so that all the notes are still the same relative spacings, but just not at a different pitch, basically. So I'm going to try and teach you the open substitute chords if you don't know your bar, or you can't play the bar chords. So C sharp minor like this, you can just about play it, and the top 2 open. It's quite a nice chord that by itself. It's vaguely minorish. I think the top notes are major, which is a bit of a pain. Something like that. No, hang on. Should have left it the way it was. So A, that's C sharp minor-ish. Beatles B flat like this. And then the F. And B minor. Play like that. It's like a D, but with a B in the bass. So the whole thing going through. I'll just refresh your memory what the whole thing sounds like. Hopefully now you're making some connections between the chords that we were playing. Okay, so hopefully you can see those chords are basically what's underneath the piece, except with a fiddly bit's taken away, right? So that's kind of you're kind of halfway then, because hopefully it's kind of unlocking, oh actually yeah, now I know what those chords are. Whereas when I played it initially, if you were thinking, my goodness, that's ridiculously complicated, it's about unlocking the first door and going, well actually, you can play the rhythm. And if all you can play is the A, without bass, in fact, so if you're just down to strumming, just do that, which is cool, you know, if you can. And then, so once you've got the strumming, if you do just the bass with your thumb, and what I would do is watch a long film and just do that constantly. And if you haven't thrown the guitar out the window by the end of it, you know, that's good. That's a good sign, because it means you're dedicated, and secondly, you'll have learned something. And if you can get that little tap on the strings, it gives it a bit of rhythm as well. And then, once you've got the thumb, you see how the bass and the strings are doing their own thing. So that's the basics. The basis for a good song. You can do it. You know, that you could do an improvisation, or that would be a nice rhythm part to play for someone else to play a lead over. So that's just that one little segment of the song is quite a useful little thing in itself. So I know I'm skipping through this, but essentially, to learn how to, if you can't do that, you just have to teach yourself the muscle memory to do it. So you start off with doing the bass with your thumb, or if you use a pick you can do it, but you should learn fingerstyle really. So there's two ways of doing it, neither's better than the other. So you've got to have the rhythm part, so and then I'm doing some clever bits and pieces with those chords, but this is where essentially basically all this kind of guitar style is based around chords. And that sounds obvious, but you're just picking up bits of chords. You know, I'm just doing bar chords there. B, so it's just the three harmonic, first three harmonic chords in A major. So A major, B minor, C sharp minor. And A is good because you just follow the dots. I'll go on to the pentatonic in a minute, but if you want to play A major pentatonic, just follow the dots really. You just need to know where the A root is there. That's an octave above the open string. A open string, 7th fret on the next string up, and that's a good little rule of thumb. Oh yeah, sorry, it was D that's actually follow the dots. So if you want D major pentatonic. So we're moving, we're going a bit haphazardly, but we're moving now on to just to touch on what pentatonic is, and pentatonic needs to choose 5 notes out of the 12 that's available on your octave, the 5 most common notes, which is basically what you need all the time. And then you start to add on the other ones in between when you know what they sound like. And if you really want to learn the names of the modes and the tiny little variations between them, I think it's probably worth doing that when you can actually play them. I wouldn't worry about the names and things before you can actually play them. So D is here. So to play a D major pentatonic, you just hit all the dots. All dotted frets, it's as simple as that. That's major pentatonic. The minor ones sound similar actually. Similar but not the same. And then in one part of that piece, there's a D where the D major is. It goes. Well, it could do. So then what you're doing is you've got your D major, which is, but it's easier to play it in a way when you're doing it here, because you've got room to play the little solo bits. You're just adding those pentatonic notes around this sort of triplet, D major triplet here. It really is quite simple when you get the hang of it. And the reason I've diverted onto talking about that kind of thing is that the whole piece is just chords and then adding those extra notes in to make it sound flash. That really is all it is. So you're just working all the way around. As long as you know what your chord is underlying, that is the crucial point in understanding any piece like this. You need to think about what are the notes he's playing. What chord is that implying? Because we're not, I've taught you how to do the thing where it's just root notes and root chords, and then it's obvious what the chord is. But when you're just doing like that, sounds cool, but it's not immediately obvious what chord that is, but it's basically B flat. That's B flat there, you see? Same chord, but I'm playing it. And it changes, so it goes B flat. That's F sus4. So again, F sus4 if you play it down here. And then sus2. It's all about moving that finger around. If you have to, stop the video, go on the internet, look at what the chord boxes are for these chords. It's tedious to explain it like this. You need the chord boxes really in either your head or on a sheet of paper so that you know what I'm doing. But trust me, this is F sus4, F major, F sus2, F major, and usually do F sus chords. So that's up here. You see how that's the same sound, it's just an octave higher, played on these notes here. So that is really, we're just messing around with an F chord. There's someone at the door. Excuse me. Right, as I was saying, there's a man at the door there, but so there's another little thing that you need to know. It's all based around the F chord, F sus4. Again, so look that up, F sus4, 1, 2. And the last chord is B minor. I'll play it like this. And so these are just more, what do they call them, altered chords or whatever, chords with adds and stuff on them. It's like a 9th with a 6th on the top. So that, we've gone right to the end of the piece now, and I know it's probably clear as mud, but just if you don't know where I'm coming from, just remember the root notes. So we're starting in A. So all of this is just fractions of chords. So I'm going, that's just the top 3 notes of the first 3 sort of harmonic chords of A major. Well, that sounds complicated, but it's just A major, B minor, C sharp minor. If you keep the bass going throughout, so much better, but that should be in your brain because you've sat in front of a Apocalypse Now just going. And then again there's just the C minor, sorry, C sharp minor. So the basis of that is C sharp minor, and you just add on what you think sounds good. So if you're going, oh well, I don't know what to do there, you just go like, just move your fingers around. So if you're doing, that doesn't sound good. That doesn't sound good. Oh yeah, that sounds good. It's the sus4. That's the 7th. So what the 7th is, again, I'm just jumping around with different little tidbits here. So you've got your octave, C sharp, an octave up. So you should know what your octaves are. And the 7th, if the octave is the 8th, you just knock it down by 2 semitones, which is actually the 7th of C minor. C sharp minor. So that's what we're doing there. So again, that's a nice little power chordy type thing to know. Say if you do move it down to C, root, 5th, octave. Then you can just move your fingers around using the dots again. So I'm just taking my fingers off randomly. So that's how easy rock and roll is. It's just. That's a perfectly acceptable rhythm piece. So yeah, so that's what you do. You just take your fingers off and move them around. Just obviously, if you don't know what the actual notes are supposed to be, just experiment with it until it sounds right. That is basically it. But the basic theory of it is you're playing notes out of the scale that's associated with the chord, or just changing the chord in an acceptable way. So C minor, C sharp minor, C sharp minor 7th, C sharp minor 7th, sus4, C sharp sus4. And to the 7th on the top if you want. And the same when you go to the D, that's D. So you're just doing this is where I was saying about the D pentatonic. So that kind of thing. Got those Hendrix kind of sounds. So again, the theory is you're invoking different inversions of the chord. Sorry, I got carried away there. So yeah, so hopefully you remember what the chords were. C sharp minor, D, flat, F, B minor. That's the open version of B minor. Nice chord in itself, that. And then E or E6. So this is the root version, and this is the sort of barred version. See how that's sort of more pleasant. Chords get a bit muddy down here, and that's why we spend more time. You try and get the bass in, but then spend the time with the melody up towards the higher end of the fretboard. I know that doesn't really kind of cover it, but hopefully it just tries to unlock what I'm trying to do. What's going on in that piece, I should say. So you've got to know what the implied chords are behind the thing. So that's B minor, C sharp minor, B minor, back to A again. A major pentatonic, C sharp minor with the bits, D with some more bits, and a B flat arpeggio type thing, F, sus4, sus2, B minor 7th, E 6. I'll go through that again. So that's an A, like an A major pentatonic scale, and that implies C sharp minor, B minor, C, B, C sharp minor, C sharp minor, D. That's all D messing around, and the B flat. You just play a B flat like that, and add some bits. F, B minor 7th, and E minor, E6. Have a think to yourself. Does that make any more sense than it did half an hour ago when I played the whole thing through in the first place? It has to, surely it has to, because you now know what the chords are. Even if you aren't confident with them, you can practice. So you can practice the root chords if that's where you're at. But then you know the theory behind turning a B like this into a B like this. It has to be said that, yeah, I don't know, is that an awkward chord? So that's the C-shaped B up there. There's no bar involved. Less of a stretch than that one. And the F again, you can just play. It's just those two, and then sus4, F major, sus2, F major again. So, yeah. I think that should have at least sort of unlocked what I'm trying to get at here. And that kind of style, you know, it's nice. I really like it. It's jazzy, it's bluesy, it combines major and minor. It's, for me, not necessarily the ultimate level of guitar playing, because there is genius level above, but, you know, certainly nice melodic. People like to listen to tunes on the guitar. You know, you've got to play something. If you're not playing a song as such, playing instrumentals, these little bits, and then if you have a looping pedal, you can play the chords, and then you can play, you practice your solos over the top. This would be a good one to try, because it does, so the B flat and the F aren't, as I say, normally in the normal key of what things are in. And that should do it, really. Yeah. Oh yeah. So just to mention about Greg Koch, so he is excellent. He's got this, because you can tell it combines jazz and blues and kind of country into one crazy, as he says, Telecaster molesting mélange. Well worth checking out. Now, it isn't easy to just look at the video and work out what he's doing. This isn't exactly right for what he was doing. What he was doing was just that little bit of extra sugar and spice on the top. So I've only just learnt this off the video today. So as I go through, I'll be learning more about how exactly he's doing it, and the little techniques and tips that I haven't quite picked up on the first time around. So everyone is still learning at any stage. But I don't think anyone would ever get to the point where they go, oh, well, I know everything there is to know about playing the guitar. You should always be striving for that next level. But that's what's brilliant about it. It's almost impossible to master the guitar. You might be able to narrow it down to, you know, one specific genre, which you're just going to go, oh, I'm going to play, I don't know, jazz shred metal, you know, or I don't know, flamenco blues or something like that, and I'm going to just get as good as I possibly can at that particular genre, which is fair enough, and that's probably the only way you only say, well, I know everything there is to know about that particular thing. But even then, I don't think you could really, because it's not just one. Everything's a rainbow of different. Every genre blends into the next one. Really, you can't ever have claimed to master it. But that sort of chordy lead, which kind of blurs the boundary between lead work and chord work, I think that is an important technique to be able to play. It's an important way to be able to play, rather than say, oh, I'm a lead guitarist, so let's go. Oh, that's all I just do lead, It's not very interesting, really. First of all, you always need a band behind you, or at least a loop. And secondly, you tend to get stuck in a rut of playing the same little sort of patterns underneath your fingers, as it were, which is fair enough, because I like to think of things as patterns on the fretboard. But at the same time, you can't really just go, oh, that's all I play. You need to be able to, because it's not that enjoyable to listen to. You need to have the rhythmic side. That's why it's important to do that. Get the bass going and the rhythm going. And again, I'm not by no means the world's best at doing that kind of thing either. You get some amazing guitarists that can do really complicated rhythmic parts and the lead at the same time, which is just totally mind-blowing. So that's an important technique to aspire to and to practice all the time, because that's the only way you get better, is by practicing and just spending hours and hours doing it, or as much time as you can actually. You get out what you put in. So if you've only got 15 minutes, just do 15 minutes and you'll be 15 minutes better. But what is, I think, a good idea is, if you tend to watch a lot of telly or even films, just do something that requires next to no brain work but lots of muscle memory. So like, that kind of thing. So let's practice that. You can do that while you're watching a film. I don't think it really takes any active brain power as such, just as long as you're doing it correctly. But it means that the muscles are learning that technique, and that's the only way that you're going to be able to do it. That's the only way you can do those two things at once. So if we're talking about doing rhythm and lead, the rhythm is quite repetitive, of course, so you can just learn that by rote, as it were, just by continuously getting your hands just to move in that way. And then you can add the lead part on top, because the hand is so automatically doing the rhythm part that you can let it do its own thing, if you know what I mean. And then the lead part, you have to concentrate on what you're doing. Yeah, sum up then, that style of playing the guitar, I think, is when if you can get to that stage, you're starting to then say, well, yeah, you get more of mastery of the guitar. You can do the rhythmic parts and the lead parts at the same time, which then is, I think, getting closer to saying, well, actually, I can actually play the guitar, because I can do a whole piece with the chords and the like an interesting lead part all at the same time. Whereas if you're just doing chords or just lead, you're missing a section, and it's not as rounded a performance, really. So that's what I would say. So hopefully that has made some sense to some people. It's hard to try and cover a lot of bases when you don't know who is kind of watching, because you don't know quite what level they're at. Hopefully, if you're just a total beginner, at least you will then have put some chords into context, root chords. And I'm not going to teach you how to do root chords. That's easy. You can just look at the chord shapes online. If you're having any problems, then you probably do need an actual physical lesson. But hopefully it's put into context how those basic chords can get jazzed up into something that sounds impressive, and how you can break something and do the reverse. You do reverse engineer it. You hear something impressive, try and pick up on some of the chords, the chord shapes and the sounds that you hear, and think, well, I think I know what that chord is. I think that's an A or a D or something. And then you've got one piece of the jigsaw puzzle, and you've got to keep going back and filling in the blanks. So I'm probably 70% there on that piece. The 30% is the really difficult pieces. But to get, say, the whole of the rhythm part, you're looking at that's 30-40% of the job done straight away, and that part isn't complicated, as complicated as trying to get to the end anyway. To try and get to the full, and you never get to 100% unless you're the person that actually wrote the piece. And then some clever clogs will come along and make it more complicated, then you'll have to learn those bits. Okay, so anyway, hope for that some use. I might do a few more of these if people actually watch them. So thanks for watching. Take it easy.